recycling. And then following that, we're going to do an e-waste and solar panel recycling workshop. If you will allow me to make a couple of opening comments real quick here. First off, the agenda has been emailed out to everybody. Everybody that's in the room here should have a copy of it. I'm going to ask everybody to do two things for me. One, if you're in person, silence your cell phones. If you are virtual, if you can go mute, as well as turn your video off, that would help speed up the process. With regard to the presentations that you will see today, we're going to shoot everything to PDF and make that available to everybody post-event, along with the recordings from today. By the way, are we recording, Tim?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Problems. If you have any problems related in person, or if for in person, come see us at the front desk. Virtual, just raise your hand in the chat function and we'll try to address the concerns. Also, if you are online, let me give you my cell phone, 850-459-9090. Again, 850-459-9090. I'll be running in and out of this room, so if you can get a hold of me. For the in-person attendees, bathrooms are down the hall and to the left. Also, for our in-person attendees, we do have lunch if you're staying for both events, or if you want to just grab a lunch before you head home after this first workshop, we do have lunches. We've got a box lunch available with a couple of different options. It's $15 per person. Evaluation. If you see on the right-hand side is a QR code for this screen. That is the evaluation form, so you can either take a picture of that. I will also, you should be able to do that virtually as well if you're online. If not, I will send out an email post-event with a separate link so we can get an evaluation of what you think on the workshop. With that, we are going to turn it right into our discussions this morning. The first on the program itself is John Sheerin, who's the Director of End-of-Life Tire Programs for U.S. Tire Manufacturers Association. And John's going to kind of set the stage for us this morning, giving us an overview of scrap tire management in the U.S. I know the organization did a report kind of doing a deep dive of what's going on across the country. So John will turn that or provide the information to us. Following that, we're going to go into a panel discussion on current tire management and recycling here in Florida. And Hope and Terry are going to provide an overview of what's going on with tire recycling and management here in the state. We're then going to follow that up with a collection and processing in markets panel. If you're going to recycle tires, you got to know what to do with them. And so we'll be talking about market creations. And I think the bulk of that session is probably going to be one of the most lively part of the workshop today, and most important part of it. So we may give that a little bit more time. Right now, we've got that slated for 30 minutes. I think we probably ought to expand that out a little bit. And then following that, we'll take a quick little break. And then follow that will be a scrap tire management discussion panel. So we're going to be talking about what do we do next? Do we need to modify current state laws? Do we need to think about what other states are doing? Or it'll kind of be an open panel discussion that will rely on our experts that are presenting today, as well as our in-person and virtual attendees to provide insight. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to John, if we can cue him up. And by the way, I am going to do a shout out to the AV guys who are AV techs, and Tim is leading our program today. So thank you, Tim. And John, I will turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. I wanted to thank Gene Jones and the Southern Waste Information Exchange for the invitation to speak today. The USTMA has prepared the U.S. Scrap Tire Management Summary since 1990, and this enables us to get a good national view of the generation and disposition of scrap tires in the United States. The U.S. Tire Manufacturers is the national trade association for manufacturers that make tires that are on the road tires in the U.S. There's 12 companies that are listed here. We began our scrap tire program in 1990, and we've been working with all the stakeholders, including states, the US EPA, and industry, to develop markets and reduce stockpiles and implement state regulations that foster sustainable and now circular scrap tire markets. Our objective is for 100% of all scrap tires to be delivered to sustainable and circular end-use markets. That's our sustainability vision right in the middle. And this summary report measures our progress toward meeting that sustainability vision. This is just one sustainability vision that we have. We have a whole series, but obviously today we're focusing on scrap tires, and we'd like to see 100% of them go to sustainable and circular end-use markets. Scrap tire generation is calculated based upon really two factors, two ways that scrap tires arise. First is replacement tires, which we calculate up from shipments in the United States. There's very good data on that. And then there's replacements. Then there's tires generated from scrapped vehicles. And of course, the commercial tires, truck and bus radials are much larger than the passenger and light truck tires. You'll see the average weight of a tire is now 25 pounds. We've increased the passenger tire equivalents from originally, when this report was first prepared, it was about 20 pounds a tire. It was moved up to 22.5 pounds per tire, and it's now up to 25 pounds per tire. We subtract out the number of tires that are delivered to the used tire market. So basically, if a tire is pulled out of this waste stream and reused as a tire, maybe it's internally in a given state, maybe it's exported, but if it's reused as a tire, we do not consider that a scrap tire. And we don't get into retreading in this report either. And we can see that there's roughly 274 million scrap tires generated in the US annually. We have a couple figures that show the disposition of scrap tires. And rather than go into all these hard numbers, which you'll have available, we have some figures that present this information better. And since I've got limited time, I think we'll move through our two figures and go to the graphical depictions. And this is the most important slide of the presentation. Scrap tires are one of the most recycled consumer products. However, markets for scrap tire recycling are not keeping pace with increasing annual generation. In blue, you can see increasing annual generation. It's going up about 4% per year over the course of the teens here. That's a relatively historical trend. And then there's a bit more of a jump shown here due to our change in calculating method on generation, which we believe is more reflective of reality based upon actual data that the Tire Industry Association collected. So generation's been going up, and that's primarily because Americans drive more every year than they did the year before. That's our habit. And there's very few exceptions. The 73 Arab oil embargo, the 79 oil crisis, and COVID. Other than those three events, basically Americans drive more every year than they did before, and that means we use more tires. In contrast, the total to market in green hasn't changed much over the years. It was dropping off a little between 13 and 19, but it made a nice increase in 2021. So there's been, essentially consistency in the United States in the overall size of the total to market, but the number of tires being generated has continued to increase. Markets have not kept pace. So in summary, generation is up, markets is consistent, and as a result, the percent to market has gone down. Scrap tire market development remains a primary focus of the U.S. tire manufacturers, and market development by states and the federal government and others is what's needed to turn this around. Unlike, say, aluminum cans, which are collection limited, scrap tires are demand limited. By collection limited, I mean every aluminum can that gets into the system and is segregated out and collected can be recycled. There's no limit in that respect. They want all the cans they can get. In contrast, we can get pretty much all the tires. They're collected generally in a separate waste stream generated at tire dealers and retailers and vehicle dismantling operations. So they're generated in segregated streams. They can readily be collected. The issue is we don't have enough markets to consume all those scrap tires. In comparison to other materials, scrap tires are one of the most recycled and reclaimed consumer products, with 71% going to beneficial end-use markets. That's more than metal, glass, aluminum, plastic, and paper. Only automotive batteries and possibly old corrugated cardboard have higher recycling rates, although the rise of Amazon has led to a decline in corrugated cardboard recycling as a percentage. Massive increase in volume, decrease in percentage. This pie chart shows the disposition of scrap tires in the United States. And basically it shows tire-derived fuel as consuming as many scrap tires as the ground rubber total. This is a change over the years. The tire-derived fuel slice of the pie has decreased, and I'll show you that in that section in just a moment. And the ground rubber total has increased. And if we look at the table with the figures, with the numbers on it, the ground rubber total just slightly overtook the tire-derived fuel total. It's not shown in the percentages because it's such a small difference, but this is the first time the statistics have ever shown a larger market for ground rubber than for tire-derived fuel. We've got a civil engineering market, that's construction applications like infrastructure, that's consuming maybe 6% US-wide. It includes alternative daily cover at landfill. We've got land disposal, which is probably underestimated in total in the report as a whole. And then there's a whole variety of smaller miscellaneous uses, including reclamation, electric arc furnace. I mentioned some. Now this is not the export of whole reusable tires used for their original purpose. It's not used tires. This export is tire-derived fuel, typically 2-inch chips exported off the West Coast. Here's a stacked bar chart that shows the numbers over time. And we can see the tire-derived fuel total has been decreasing. The ground tire rubber in the middle has been increasing, particularly between 19 and 21. There's been a little jump in the civil engineering market, but over time you can see it's bounced around within that range. The amount exported is significantly lower in 2021 than it's been in many years past. That's primarily due to energy costs and such. And then there's a wide variety of smaller markets up on the top, but the lion's share is within tire-derived fuel and ground tire rubber. Looking very briefly, and I'm going to just fly through these slides because I've got about 2 minutes left here. I'm sorry. Here's the breakdown within the tire-derived fuel market. Cement kilns has been the predominant market since the decline of this sector here, the utilities and electric and utilities, boilers, pulp and paper has been pretty steady over the years. Here's the stacked bar chart that shows those numbers over time. And you can see the overall decrease in tire-derived fuel, predominantly driven by the orange sector at the top, industrial boilers and electric utilities, which is squeezing out. It seems to be squeezing out over time here. Cement is focusing almost exclusively on maximizing production right now, and they do that when they use a little bit of a different fuel mix. And I think that accounts for some of that drop, because neither the number of cement kilns nor pulp and paper mills decreased over the last couple of years. Basically, they've been very steady in their usage. The ground rubber markets, we'll get into in a lot of detail in the market development section. I point at rubber modified asphalt, which is taking 10% of the ground rubber market. Molded and extruded products grew. Mulch grew substantially during the course of the pandemic. And there's the stacked bar chart over time. You can see that big jump in the yellow on the right in the molded and extruded between 19 and 21, and then an even bigger jump on a percentage basis in the mulch between 19 and 21. Here's civil engineering, which bounces around a bit over time. We're hoping that the infrastructure bill and the Inflation Reduction Act will spark more civil engineering. Stockpiles, which originally drove this issue, have declined from US EPA estimated over 1 billion tires in stockpiles in 1990. We're down to under 50 million. And I know Florida's been a large part of that, having at one time in excess of 17 million scrap tires in the state. So there's been huge progress in eliminating those stockpiles. We want to drive that down to zero and make sure that 100% of scrap tires are going into sustainable and circular end-use markets. That pretty much consumes all my time. I've got some additional slides after this that we'll get into later if we have time. But I'd like to thank you again for your time and attention today. And I'll be on the screen more than you'll like as we go forward. So I'm going to be available for questions and discussion throughout the course of this workshop this morning.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it. Well, actually, I'm going to ask, after thinking about looking at the time frame here, let's hold off on questions. For those of you that are online, if you want to, you can actually input if you have any questions for John in the chat function, then we'll come back to those. Now we're going to turn it into an overview of what's going